What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you for Monday, April 7th. We're coming off a nice win. We have two winning days in a row. Does that mean the slump is discontinued? I don't know. I still have a lot of work to do to get back to the break-even point here. Well, not a ton of work, but a decent day yesterday. I'll take it after going 6-5. I think the previous day. Yesterday was 7-3, 2-1 in hockey. Columbus Blue Jackets. Never going to bet them again, obviously. And again, that game was statistically fairly close again, yet they lost 4-0. Olmark definitely was really good in net for Ottawa. I just thought the motivational standpoint was there. That didn't get there. Chicago Blackhawks did win for me. And Bruins Buffalo went over quite easily, as that game was tied 3-3, I think, going somewhere in the second period. So at that point, it's already over because one team's going to have to score to break the tie. So you already hit that one. Baseball has been pretty good for me the last couple of days as well. Baseball going well for me after a little bit of a hiccup in the middle there. Baseball, even with my high volume, and I have high volume again with 5 baseball plays today, I think. One in college basketball in the final, which I'll get to in a second, and one in NBA. Baseball was good yesterday. The only loss, I think, was Baltimore not getting there. That was not a very good one. Cade Povich getting just knocked around. He kind of limited the damage given how many hits he gave up, but it was just not good. Bubich did way better than I thought he would. The boob man, Booby. I'm more of the boob man, really. Bubich did not do well. Or Bubich did do well, excuse me, and I thought that he would not do well. Povich didn't do well. But I did win on the Colorado Rockies, on the Milwaukee Brewers. Both of my unders hit, although the White Sox-Detroit one was close. It came in at 7, at the under 7.5. There was another under. What was the other under that I had yesterday? There was one other one, the Mets, Toronto. That was easy, way under. And then I had NBA split 1-1, easy outright win with the LA Lakers as a big underdog, but then Phoenix did not do the same. Phoenix, I believe them to be a dead team now. I will talk about NBA in a second, even though there are only 2 NBA games today, and that was it, I think. Yeah, that was all I had yesterday, I believe. So it was a good day overall, though. Let's get into today, man, and we'll talk college basketball right away. Let's get right into it, and I do have a play on the final, which if you watched my show yesterday, you already know what I'm doing here, even though it does look like the cash percentage is starting to come in Florida now, but I'm disagreeing with that. I'm going to take Houston plus the 1 point. Florida down from 1.5 to 1, though. So the initial move was against Florida. Florida does still have 54% of tickets, although 60% of the cash. To me, I do think Florida is the public side, as they pretty much have been all tournament. I mean, they have been the overpicked team all tournament, and if you follow me, you know that I think they should probably have been bounced from the tournament by now with those close games. They probably should have lost, as they were losing down the stretch to UConn and Texas Tech, which I'll talk about in a second. I think they're on borrowed time, and I don't really think you can say the same about Houston, even though they did have that close game against Purdue. Houston was winning that game, I think, down the stretch. They're actually losing at halftime, I think, but they were winning in the second half, and Purdue kind of closed the gap again. Purdue, maybe a bit of a difficult matchup for Houston in Indianapolis, though. That game was pretty close to Purdue's campus, only within an hour or two away, so kind of a difficult geographic location for Houston, which is not going to be the case in this one, because guess what? This game's at San Antonio, Texas, so the Houston fans are going to be there in this game. Florida travels well as well, but Houston, I believe they had a lot of fans there last time, even though Duke also had a lot of fans. But Houston was able to overcome that anyway. And then I'm trying to collect my thoughts, man, because I'm just all over the place with my mind here. What else was I going to say? I have kind of a lot of thoughts about this game, trying to condense this a little bit. The one drawback is that Houston did play the tougher game in the prior round, which was 2 days ago. On Saturday night, they played the later game and the tougher game, so they could be a little bit more physically tired coming into this, but I think you can kind of discount that a little bit, I think, because it is the final, and Houston was more battle-tested in that game. They overcame the team that everybody thought was going to win, man. So, well, I mean, in one way, a lot of people are going to give Houston a decent amount of credit for winning that game because, they beat Duke. Nobody's going to care as much about Florida beating Auburn again, but still the public is on Florida here because they like those high-flying offenses like Florida, as they have been all tournament. So I don't think it's really a case where, oh, Houston looked like the better team in the Final Four. I'm not sure that they did, because I think a lot of people are going to say, well, Duke blew the game, which they did. Duke's inexperience completely caught up to them with several huge mistakes down the stretch. But the public is also going to say, well, Houston got super lucky because if Cooper Flagg didn't get flagged for that penalty, if he didn't get flagged for that foul, I guess. That's not even the right terminology. Cooper Flagg. But if he didn't get hit with that foul at the end, public is basically saying that Duke would have won that game. I don't agree with that because Duke was imploding in that game. I don't think that foul call is what determined the game. It did give Houston free throws, but it gave them a 1-and-1, and it put one of their worst free throw shooters at the line. And Duke had just missed one of their free throws, and Houston was going to get the rebound on that anyway, so they were going to have a possession down 1 point anyway, so they could have scored anyway. So I don't think that really determined the game, but I think people are going to kind of look at that and think Houston got lucky. I think what we see here is that Houston is battle-tested. I think they have a championship makeup this year, man, because they ran like a perfect play to beat Purdue in that really tight game. Gonzaga came all the way back and gave them a tight game as well. And Gonzaga is a good offense. So now Houston has faced two really good offenses, too, in Gonzaga and Duke. So now facing a good offense again in Florida won't be that foreign to them. Purdue actually has a very efficient offense as well, although they play slow. Duke also kind of plays slow. But Houston is battle-tested now for those reasons. They had those close calls. Yes, I know Florida did have close calls as well and have to come back as well. And it's like both teams can't be killed. But Houston, I mean, they are the better defense here, and they're being lined as an underdog. So, I like to look that way, too. Houston is the best defense in the country, even though Florida is also a good defense. I think the pacing comes into play as well. Houston likes to play slow, and that tends to be what you want in a championship game like this, man. As I've kept saying, Florida doesn't meet some of this historical criteria as far as which teams are going to win, like the championship. Florida being like a top 50 team in pace of play, meaning they play really fast, doesn't bode well for winning the championship, as I've already said, although they keep winning. But usually that pace of play kind of catches up to you eventually. And we don't tend to see fast teams win the tournament, like, at all. So I think that bodes well for Houston as well. And Florida, like I said, they were ranked 21 in preseason, and the only team that we've ever seen outside of the top 10 in preseason, I believe, that has actually won the championship has been UConn, the only program that's done it. UConn has done it multiple times in the last, 2 decades, at least, I should say, including recently, yeah, so maybe the transfer portal is kind of changing things. UConn did do it. 2 years ago, they were actually unranked, and they won it. Florida was ranked 21 in preseason, but still, historically, that doesn't bode well for Florida either. And historically, Florida's against the spread record throughout the tournament doesn't bode well, as I believe something like 17 of the last 19 champions have covered the spread in all 6 games or all but one of the games in the tournament. And Florida is already 2-3. They've failed to cover in 3 of the 5 tournament games already, whereas Houston, I believe, I don't remember if they covered the opening game against Edwardsville. I guess they didn't cover against Gonzaga. They didn't cover against Purdue. So I guess Houston has failed to cover twice as well. But even so, I don't know if you can really take that much away from that. And they did cover their last 2 games, of course. So Houston does still have the better ATS record here than Florida does at 3-2. Now, the other thing is that I was about to mention is that Florida has faced, well, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but Houston is a slow-paced team. Florida's faced 2 slow-paced teams during the tournament here. One was UConn, and the other was Texas Tech. And they also happened to face both of them on a quick turnaround time with 1 day off. So that was in the short turnaround time. And those were the 2 games that Florida basically should have lost. And what are they in here? Oh, yeah, they're on a quick turnaround time facing another slow-down team. So the 2 games they played in this tournament that were in a situation like this with 1 day off plus playing a slow-down team, those were the games against UConn and Texas Tech. They did not do well in those games, and Houston is way better defensively than both of those teams. Texas Tech is definitely a good team, but they don't reach like the top 30, I don't think, in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency metrics. And UConn certainly is not even close. UConn actually was pretty bad defensively this year. So Houston is a completely different animal. So I like how that goes for Houston as well. And we're going to give Houston the experience nod, even though I know it didn't get there for Auburn. Auburn blew that game, really. Houston, they have the more experienced coach. He's been to the Final Four before. I think he might be ready to take the next step. Kelvin Sampson and this group of guys that Houston has right now has played together for multiple years in a row now, which I think helps as well. And they've been further in the tournament than these Florida guys have. So Houston has the experience edge. And I think that's the entire handicap there. We're going to go with Houston to win the championship here for all of those reasons. I wish I picked them in my bracket because I have Auburn over Houston in the final, which sucks. Almost picked Houston to get there. They were the other leverage play for the championship. Both teams were the top two leverage plays. Auburn was more of the betting odds leverage play, and that's what I went with. Houston was more of the analytical leverage play. So Houston is the play there. Let's try to get this done, man. NHL, I don't have any plays in the NHL today. I'm skipping this card. It's kind of a small card, but I just don't like it. Tampa, New York is a good game. Tampa, let me see. I'm going to try to get these done real quick. Tampa up from minus 128 to minus 140. 50% of tickets, 97% of the cash coming in on Tampa. So the money's coming in on Tampa, yet you're looking at a home underdog in the Rangers here, and the Rangers are still fighting to try to make the playoffs, man. There's not a whole lot of time left, and they're a home underdog in total desperation mode. So I'm not sure that I would agree with the money move on Tampa here. Tampa did just lose to Buffalo, so they are staying in New York, and that was a pretty ugly loss. But again, Rangers coming off a shutout in the hands of the New Jersey Devils, so they could be in a bounce-back mode as well. Looking at the standings, I mean, the Rangers, as I already said, they're almost done, but not eliminated yet. 6 points back. So if they're going to, they should show up, man. I mean, they're the team that's in desperation mode. Tampa's already going to make the playoffs. So that's how I look at that one. I like Winnipeg against St. Louis. I said that I thought St. Louis, their run was going to end against the Avs, and it still didn't end, which is getting ridiculous. But now they're facing Winnipeg, who's really, really good at home, and one of the best teams in hockey. Better than the Avs, I think, even though the Avs are good. Winnipeg up from minus 160 to minus 163. 82% of tickets, 90% of the cash coming in on them. So the money coming in on Winnipeg. I'll have to check, by the way, if I do think Winnipeg is better than the Avs. I'll have to look. But St. Louis is coming off, like I said, another big win over the Avs. I believe that was that yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago. Now they have to go on the road to face Winnipeg. Yeah, they might carry their momentum out on the road, but Winnipeg's off an ugly loss to Utah. The only problem is Winnipeg is returning home from a road trip that took them to the Pacific Coast and then into elevation. So it's actually not exactly the greatest spot for Winnipeg there. So I can't do it. So I'll stay away. So maybe St. Louis actually gets another win here, even though they're a big underdog, just because Winnipeg's returning home. But I don't love it. And then we do have Edmonton and Anaheim will be the other game that I'll talk about here. Just the games. Actually, not Edmonton, Anaheim. Only because I kind of have an angle in this one. Edmonton only being a minus 150 favorite. It looks like the money is coming in against Edmonton, down from minus 160 to minus 150. A lot of market disrespect for Edmonton recently. Maybe it's warranted. 88% of tickets, only 70% of the cash. I mean, Edmonton, we know they can score, but they're really not that good of a defensive team, although in the last game, they actually got shut out 3-0 against the LA Kings, and they're staying in the LA area, so I don't think it's actually the worst spot for Edmonton, even though the market read is like completely on Anaheim here. Edmonton possibly could bounce back there, but Anaheim has played some pretty ugly games recently as well, losing 4-1 and 6-2 in their last two games on a quick road trip, but they still are returning home from a road trip. Although, all that being said, I don't think they're going to overlook Edmonton coming into their place. But you can see why I'm not playing any of these games, because they're just kind of conflicting reads here. And if you don't watch me, usually, as I always point out, teams that are returning home from road trips tend to be a little bit distracted and have to get back to home life and whatever. So I don't really want to do anything with Winnipeg or Anaheim for those reasons. Let's go to the NBA, where I do have one play, and it's on the Detroit Pistons, even though we're laying a lot of wood here, a lot of lumber. There are only 2 games here, but I think Sacramento's in a really bad spot here. Sacramento, they are coming off a game where they beat Cleveland. I mean, there is a reason why this line is as big as it is. I don't know that we're really getting that much value here at this point, but I'm going to do it anyway just because I think the spot just lines up for it. I mean, maybe if you wanted to do money line, although it's going to be a huge money line, maybe parlay the money line with something else, even though personally I don't like parlaying because you never get good enough odds, but find some way to knock down the price on Detroit if you really want to. But Sacramento just beat Cleveland, and they're finishing a road trip now. So they've played a bunch of games on the road. Not only that, but they're in a back-to-back in 2 different cities, a 3rd game in 4 days in different cities, a 4th game in 6 days, 5th game in 8 days, and a 6th game in 10 days, I believe. Is that right? And 7th in 12, all in different cities. So they've had a really packed schedule here. And they got Denver up next, which I think is a bigger game because it is a Western Conference game. I think this is a sandwich spot. It's a bad spot. It's a bad travel or rest spot for Sacramento. You're coming off a huge win over Cleveland. And if you look at the standings, let's see if we can get the standings up here. Where can I do that? NBA standings. Let's do it. Sacramento is basically locked into one of the playing games now as a road team. They can't really do anything at this point. I guess it's technically possible that they fall down and the Suns bounce them, but Dallas is in between them, and I don't even think that's going to happen. The Suns look like they've given up. The Suns are a half game away from elimination at this point, so really Sacramento is pretty much locked into this one of these 2 spots, either the 9 or the 10. I don't know if they prefer one way or the other. Maybe they'd rather face Memphis than Minnesota, but still, I think the motivation is all on the is not on their side, and maybe on the Detroit side. Although Detroit, they're pretty much locked into either the 5 or the 6 now as well, so it doesn't really matter as much to them either. So as far as seeding motivation, there actually isn't a whole lot. I just think we're playing against Sacramento in a really bad spot here, and that's really the thing. There's no playoff motivation at this point. And for Detroit, I actually think they're in a good spot because they've lost 3 of their last 4, but they lost to Minnesota, OKC, Memphis. Those are good teams, and those 2, Minnesota, OKC, are also on the road. They lost to Memphis at home, but that was a return home spot with no time off. So it was on a back-to-back, returning from Toronto. They played Oklahoma City 2 days prior to that. So they were playing 3 games in 4 days in different cities. And on top of all that, maybe I should have played Memphis there or did I? No, I don't think I did. Cade Cunningham came back in that game, and he's Detroit's best player. He's their star, so the reverse injured player theory came into play in that game as well. So that was a whole confluence of negative situations for Detroit there. So I think that's why they lost that game, but now they're in like a double positive spot here because now they return home. They didn't have a good game in that return home, so they're going to want to bounce back from that, in my opinion, and they'll have more focus in this game, even though they are still playing a 3rd game in 4 days. But at least 2 of them are at home now with 1 day off now, which that pales in comparison to the spot that Sacramento is in. Like I already pointed out, no rest for Sacramento is all here. No rest for the wicked, I guess. And we got no rest for the Kings. And then what else was I going to say? Oh, Detroit also is now going to have their 2nd game with Cunningham back. So he played pretty well in the first game, really. They lost. But again, a lot of times with that injured player coming back, you get value going against that team because obviously the injured player coming back when they're a star like that, that's going to affect the line. You're probably going to get value going against that team because the team has to kind of work their way back up to having him back. They have to regain that chemistry a little bit. He has to get back and into the swing of things as far as playing an actual game is concerned. So now I think they've done that. Now it's his 2nd game back. So I think it's a much better spot. Unfortunately, we did not get the better number on this as Detroit is up from 5 to 7.5. Now 72% of the cash on them. Money is coming in on Detroit. 57% of tickets. I don't know if you can get a 7 on this because it looks like 7.5 is reduced juice, but either way, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to lay it, even though 7 is a key number because it's where teams stop intentionally fouling because it's the 3-possession threshold. But I'm going to do it anyway. And then we got 76ers Heat. I mean, the 76ers look like they've totally given up. Heat are up from 13 to 14.5, though. The Heat, I don't know that they have that much left to play for either. I think maybe they could still get a home play-in game or whatever the case is, so they might still have reason to play for seeding that way, but they're laying 2 touchdowns here, which is not something I would be interested in. And 84% of the cash coming in on the Sixers seems kind of crazy as well, though, because they seem like they've given up. So I'm certainly not going to play that game at all. And let's go to MLB, where we have a short Monday card, but I actually like a lot of these games. So let's get right into it. I mean, My first instinct was to fade St. Louis because, as I pointed out yesterday, St. Louis and the Red Sox played a doubleheader yesterday, and played one of those games being the ESPN night game. So your first look should be to look to see, should I fade those teams that were in those games yesterday because they have way more bullpen usage. They're more tired. Their hitters had to play a second game. They played late last night. And that ESPN game is the game you get up emotionally for. But I think I want to go against the Red Sox more than I want to go against St. Louis here, because St. Louis got swept. So they might just be a little bit pissed off. And I don't know what to do with Liberatore against Mlodzinski. We don't really know who either of them are. And they actually both have decent numbers, I think, against these opposing lineups in a small amount of playing time. So I'm not going to get involved in that one. Where I am going to go first is look at this Dodgers-Washington game. And instead of trying to lay a huge price with the Dodgers, which I've been getting caught laying the run line, you could, if you want, lay the 1.5 run line. I don't love to do it, even though I've done it with the Dodgers at home a couple of times, and I'm 1-1 in those games. I don't really want to do it again here. Doing it at home is a little bit worse, even because doing it home advantage isn't that much in baseball, and doing it at home, that team, if they're already ahead, they don't get that extra inning to bat in the 9th inning, so it's a little bit worse. But instead of doing anything with the Dodgers side here, I'm going to go Dodgers team total, something I very rarely do, over the 4.5. I'm going to just bank on the Dodgers hitting in this game. Now, the Dodgers, they lost yesterday, and I know their team total went under 2 of the last 3 games, but prior to that, they had gone over this 4.5 team total in every game except this one game against Atlanta, which I believe was against Chris Sale. Yeah, it was against Chris Sale. So the games where the Dodgers haven't scored were against like elite pitchers for the most part. Well, one of these games was against Nola. He's not elite, but he's good. And then I think one of the other ones was against, who was it against? Let me see. It was against, Luzardo. I mean, Luzardo actually pretty good young pitcher. So other than that, the Dodgers, I mean, they tend to rake against pitchers that aren't that good, and that's who they're facing here. And they're coming off a loss. So I think you're going to see the Dodgers be able to do that again. Like I said, the Dodgers have still gone over this 4.5 in 7 out of the 11 games so far. And 2 of those games are really recent. The other one that they didn't go over was, where is it at? Actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just those 2. So maybe it's 8 out of the 11, whatever it is. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers team total here. If we look at the pitching matchup here, Dustin May is going for the Dodgers. He's been pretty decent. He's a decent young pitcher. And against, who are they playing against? The Nationals. Against the Nationals, a little bit of playing time. They're 2 for 12 off him, 5 strikeouts, no walks. So he's done pretty well against them. 333 OPS. So I'm looking, like the Dodgers side wouldn't be a bad way to look, but if you want to go with like the -1 run line, could go with the -1.5 at -110. The -1 run line is at like -170 or -160 something, so I really don't want to do that. And May is still a little bit of a question mark, even though I did play on him in his last game, and I got a win on that one. I believe May is not a bad pitcher. He's pretty good, but I'm just going to fade Gore in this game. Gore has a good ERA so far this year with a 2.45 ERA. He's had 2 good starts. He really dominated Philly, but then he kind of took a step back and didn't do as well against Toronto. And I don't think Gore is that good at all. And against the Dodgers, so I think maybe we're getting a little bit of value fading him in this spot. And against the Dodgers, 42 at-bats worth, 9.6 strikeout walk ratio. They have a 3.10 average against them and 1,062 OPS. So the Dodgers have definitely raked against him if you want to look for that. A Conforto's 2 for 2 off him with a 3-run homer. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on. Ohtani actually is 0 for 3 off him. So the Dodgers have done that damage without Ohtani even getting involved. So that's the way I'm going to go there. I don't like how it sets up for Gore at all. We'll go Dodgers team total over 4.5 in that one rather than try to deal with the Dodgers laying a huge price. That's a way to get the Dodgers at a better price at the very least. Toronto at Boston, like I said, I'm going to fade Boston in this one. By the way, the Dodgers way up. If you had gotten them at -145, good for you, because that would have been a nice price to land them. They're up to -187 now, so heavy money coming in on the Dodgers. Maybe they didn't know who the pitchers are going to be yet. 95% tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on them. So I do agree with the Dodgers side, obviously, in general. St. Louis, by the way, does have more of the cash percentage on them, 85% versus 70% of the tickets. So I don't know what to do with that information. All these are evening games, too, so if I run out of time, I might come back. Boston down from minus 145 to minus 127 on the money line here. I'm grabbing, is it Toronto? Yeah, I'm grabbing Toronto at plus 114 here. I'm going to fade Boston, even though Dick Fitz is pitching, and he didn't pitch yesterday. Richard Fitz, like I said, I like him as a young pitcher, but I don't like this spot at all. And I'm going to bring in the bullpens into this situation, obviously, because the Red Sox played 2 games yesterday. Fairly heavy bullpen usage in game 1, not really so much in game 2, but still the Red Sox played 2 games yesterday. I know they're staying at home, but they also completed a sweep of St. Louis and won 18-7 last night. And whenever you do that, you score 18 runs, you're going to be overvalued. I think you're going to be feeling pretty high on yourselves. So I don't like the spot that they're in at all. Toronto's coming in off getting swept by the Mets in a couple of close games to finish off that series against the Mets. And I think they had Bowden Francis on the mound yesterday, and he pitched well, so they didn't use a lot of their bullpen. So Toronto's bullpen is way more intact coming into this game. Even if the bullpen's not that great, they at least have way more rest here, and their hitters should be a bit more rested too because they didn't play 2 games yesterday. People are going to look at that and say Toronto just got swept by the Mets and couldn't score at all in that series. Boston just put up a shit ton of runs yesterday and swept St. Louis. So the public, I think, is only going to want to come in one way on this and come in on Boston. I disagree with it, even though I don't know what we're going to get out of Easton Lucas at all, who has had kind of a late start to his career at the age of 28, but he throws lefty, so he's at least going to be throwing out a kind of a weird arm angle. He actually had 5-inning, 1-hit shutout ball against the Nats in his first game, so that's not that bad. The Red Sox have actually seen him before, but in 6 at-bats were a very small sample size. But even so, 167 average off him and 619 OPS, and really Bregman has been kind of the only one to do any damage at all. So the Red Sox haven't done well against Easton Lucas in a very short sample size, though. Fitz, on the other hand, he's a pretty good young pitcher, too. He did well in his first game, although he gave up 2 home runs, but definitely limited the damage. Didn't do bad otherwise at all. I think he's good, but Toronto's one of the few teams that has seen him before, and in 10 at-bats, they got 4 hits off him, so they had no strikeouts and 1 walk, a 400 average and 1,055 OPS. So they've given Dick Fitz, really. They've given Richard Fitz. So Fitz, this may not be the best matchup for him, and I'm going full game as well. So we're not only looking at the starting pitching matchup, but we're looking at the fact that the Red Sox bullpen and their bats could be more tired after playing the doubleheader yesterday, and Toronto might be a little bit more motivated here because they're coming off the sweep where they got swept, whereas the Red Sox did just sweep a team and look really good in doing so. So we got Toronto in that one. We're going to go with, let's see. I do kind of like the under in Texas, Chicago. Eovaldi and Steele both have good numbers against those opponents, but I looked, and the total in that game is at 6. It actually says 5.5 there at ESPN. That's just insane. That is an unbelievably low total, and you know me. Even if I like the game to be really low scoring, I won't go under a total that's lower than 7, man. I'll just pass on it. I won't do it because 7 is very key in baseball as far as it breaking the 3-3 tie. So you have almost no wiggle room when you go under 6, 6.5. This is a ridiculously low total, although I expect it to be low scoring. Must mean that there's going to be wind blowing in at Wrigley as well, or really bad weather conditions or something, because Wrigley could be a really offensive ballpark depending on the weather, or depending on on the climate conditions, really, and the wind and whatever. But we will go under in a couple of these other games. We'll go under 8.5 at Baltimore, Arizona. Both of these teams are traveling out to Arizona. Baltimore is coming out there from Kansas City. Neither team used that much of their bullpen, really, I don't think. And Arizona's coming out there from Washington. So both teams flying to the Pacific Coast, having to deal with time changes, which could affect the hitting a bit. So I like that both teams have this weird travel out to the Pacific Coast. The hitters could be starting to get a little bit tired, especially because this game's late at night. And I like the pitching matchup with 2 Zachs going. Zach Eflin off to a good start this season, and against the D-backs, let's look at what he's got against the D-backs. 176 batting average allowed, 423 OPS, 20-2 strikeout walk ratio, 9 hits and 51 at-bats. So he has really, really dominated this D-backs lineup, even though they're a pretty good lineup. That's good. Zach Gallen on the other side, coming off a really nice performance against the Yankees to bounce back from a bad one against the Cubs. But I don't really see him having a letdown here. He's been good against the Baltimore hitters as well. In 38 at-bats, he's allowed 9 hits, 8.3 strikeout walk ratio, 237 average, 661 OPS. So he has good numbers against them. We'll go under in that one, and we will also go under in Giants-Cincinnati. Giants are not traveling in this one. Cincinnati is having to travel out to the Pacific Coast. So again, could get some tired bats here. I don't think either team used a lot of their pen yesterday. And you know me, I like the starting pitching matchup. I think I played under in a similar matchup, and I think maybe I lost it at Great American Ballpark, but we're not at Great American Ballpark this time. We're at San Francisco. And let's make sure I'm getting the right, because when you switch over to a new series, you have to make sure you're getting the right opponent here. Hunter Green has allowed 9 hits and 63 at-bats, totally dominating the Giants hitters, 29-6 strikeout walk ratio. Only issue is he's allowed 3 home runs, but 2 of them are Adames, who's only 3 for 16 off him. Does have 3 walks, but I don't know how much you can take away from that, really. 143 average allowed overall and 535 OPS, so Adames still doesn't do that well other than when he's connected, he's gone a little bit nuts. Logan Webb also has good numbers this season so far. He's a pretty good pitcher. And up against the Reds, 99 at-bats worth, 242 average allowed, and 636 OPS. So both pitchers match up pretty well there. And we're getting a low total here at under the 7. You have to pay juice for it, too, at the minus 120, which I'm willing to do because the 6.5 is a big difference. This total's dropping a little bit more. I think, where's it at? It's down from 7 to 7 juice to the under a little bit more, although it looks like the cash coming in on the over 79% of tickets. I don't agree with that, obviously. And 50% of the tickets, 79% of the cash. I agree with the move to the under there. And then in that other game, what are we looking at as far as the total is concerned in that other one? Where was I? It's an interleague game as well, yeah. Down from 8.5 to 8.5 juice to the under there, and we don't really see any percentages yet. And to finish it off, I got Seattle run line -1 at -117. You got to pay a little bit more for that one, but I like it. Seattle's down from -165 to -160. I don't know how much we can take away from that little dip in the market because Houston is having to travel out to the Pacific Coast now. Seattle's already on the Pacific Coast because they were just in San Francisco, so they're not really traveling very far, and they don't have to adjust to a time zone difference. Seattle just got swept by San Francisco, so they're going to be in a foul mood, I think. They're a lot better at home as well, and they got Hayden Wesneski pitching for Houston. He's probably their worst starter, and he's not good against Seattle. Seattle's in 16 at-bats, small sample size, sure, but 375 average, 1,069 OPS against them, 2.2 strikeout walk ratio. So they've done pretty well against him. He's not good. Logan Gilbert is certainly the better starting pitcher, although I know it's being factored into the line. He's off to a good start this year, too. He's way better at home than he is on the road as well. So that's a good sign as well. Pretty significant home road splits last year. And against Houston, 248 average allowed, 721 OPS is getting a little bit high, and 153 at bats. So they are familiar with him, but he's done well against them. 39-8 strikeout walk ratio. He just has to keep those home runs in line as he's allowed 5 of them, which is why the OPS is so high. But I think in Seattle, which is more of a pitcher's park, I think he'll do better. So I think Seattle is the way to go there. That's going to do it for me. Tower Game Tone on Twitter. Follow the Tower Game Podcast. Patreon.com/Tower Game to support us. One more time, we got Houston +1 in the college basketball championship. Pistons -7.5 NBA. MLB, Dodgers team total over 4.5. Toronto +114. Seattle run line -1 with a little bit of juice. Baltimore, Arizona under the 8.5. And San Francisco, Cincinnati under 7. Peace out, everybody. Have a good Monday.